All right, everyone. I've heard your feedback. I've made some adjustments to the position of the camera so you can see the tools. Today we're going to be going through less about retouching and more about my approach to aerial photography. We're going to produce 5 images, but with aerial photography, done from a drone or from a helicopter, most of the time you shouldn't need to be doing a ton of retouching. It's going to, of course, vary based on site conditions and what you want to achieve with the image, but we're going to do a couple of residential projects, a couple of cultural projects, and larger scale projects as well. Here, we're going to talk about context. We're going to talk about when to shoot, why to shoot shots, and what drones and aerial photography are really good for. So I'm just going to run you through the images. This is a high-end residential project in the north suburbs of Chicago that I shot both from a helicopter and from a drone. This was the cover. This house was the cover of a book and published elsewhere. Here we have a project in Tennessee, cultural project, a big park and shade structure in Memphis. A office tower in Boston that I photographed with drones and other. Most of it was from the ground. This was from a drone. A project out in Wyoming, a complex of buildings out there, and then here a project in La Jolla, California that I photographed. It's these 6 big residential towers for UCSD out there. Let's start with this one. This image, interestingly, is one of the most repurchased images that I've ever made. There were so many interested parties on this shoot that I ended up selling this image beyond the initial architect paying me to be there and to make the photographs. Once time went by and my multiple client sort of licensing agreement opened up for me to sell the image, I sold it probably 10 more times. This has been a very successful image. The thing that drones are very good at, that aerial photography is very good at, is showing context, showing plan views, which is looking straight down. I think it's easy to give aerial photography a lot of attention, but really, you should. This is not how we experience the building. It has its uses, but don't lean too heavily on it. Very helpful when it's helpful. So this is the raw image. This is straight out of the drone here. There are my there are my adjustments. So you can see little to no adjustments here. There you go, straight out of the drone. We had marine layer coming in. This is looking south and west here. This was in the summertime. We had low light coming from the west, sort of due west, a little bit to the north. It was summer, so the sun had crossed the axis, the north-south axis there, the east-west axis at around 5:30 p.m. This is probably made around 6:45, 7 o'clock in the evening. So I wanted breaking light on my north faces here, and I wanted as much of the shadow to be on the ground, as much of the ground to be in shadow as I could, so that the buildings were really the heroes here. It does a good job of relating how close the campus is to the ocean. It shows sort of how these buildings fit into the rest of the campus. You can see the entry to Black's Beach down here. You can see La Jolla in the background. So the main thing I did here was just try to cut through that marine layer, right? We're missing the horizon here. We want to see a nice ocean horizon, which there is, obviously. It's just not showing here. So what I'm going to do is make a educated guess on exactly where the horizon is. I think I can see it there, right? I know that this drone was level, so I can just draw sort of a straight line across here. This looks like it maybe is a sliver low. It seems like there's maybe a, I'm just a few pixels low here. So I'm gonna back out of that, raise my selection up. I'm holding shift while I draw with this marquee, with this polygonal marquee, so that I draw a straight line across my image. So I'm going to draw a straight line across to where I connect here with the tree line. And then for now, I'm just going to select all of the water and give myself a good bit of room around it. What I'm going to do here is brush this selection away rather than try to trace around every one of those trees. We're probably going to use one of the RGB channels as well to help us feather this selection out. So right now what I'm going to do is just hit Q to go into quick mask, hit B to get my brush up. I'll take it at maybe 100% opacity and say 20% flow is probably fine here. Using a white brush, we're just going to brush some of this away. So we start with a nice soft edge, okay? Then we're going to go in and finesse it a little bit more with using some channels, okay? So it's also likely that I'm gonna brush the horizon down darker than I'm going to I'm gonna affect the horizon line more than I'm gonna affect the foreground water. So I'm gonna take myself out of that quick mask, leaving myself with the selection. And I'm gonna go ahead and just make a new curves layer for now. Okay, so we can see what this is going to do if we draw down the curves layer. It's going to give us a horizon, right? The layer is affecting all the water evenly. It's making the water look a little dirty. We need to have a little more finesse than this, right? So we're just going to leave that selection there for now, and then we're going to take a look at our channels here. Red channel is pretty good contrast here. Green channel is similar. Blue channel is actually blue channel is probably best. Yeah, okay. So we're gonna make a copy of the blue channel. I'm gonna right click on the blue channel, duplicate it, which is gonna give me an alpha of the blue channel here. Now I can modify that. So I'm gonna I'm gonna adjust the curves on it. So Command M on that and make sure that's out of your way. And then we're just going to, I'm gonna take my, if you navigate off of your curves dialog box here and over to your image, you're going to get an eyedropper. So I'm just going to eyedropper here to give myself a, I know I want this to be close to white and I know I want this to be close to black. Okay, so if I give myself a little eyedropper here, I can put an anchor there, can put an anchor there, and then I'm just gonna start sort of dragging those apart so that I get them closer. Okay, so that's gonna give me enough contrast to separate all these trees and this line. I don't need to go crazy here. I will go ahead and maybe I'll just take a nice big old brush here and just brush away all these very white buildings and foreground. I'll do that at 50% flow so it doesn't take me forever. Just gonna brush this away. I'm gonna be careful when I get close to the cliffs here, just so I know I'm not gonna inadvertently use a little bit of those white buildings as part of my selection. Okay, I can probably just drag this down a little bit. Yeah, I can probably just drag this down a little bit further here. Okay, all right. So now I'm going to just select that blue copy. Now I know that I have essentially my water selected. I'm going to invert it so that I have my land selected. And now I'm going to go ahead and go back into this curves layer we made here and use a black brush and brush that off of all of the trees and the vegetation on the coast here. See, there you go. So that's going back into quick mask. You can see what it's affecting. We've done a nice job of isolating our water out of this selection. So now I'm not having weird haloing. These are important details to get right. So I might just cheat a little tiny bit of blue and maybe a little bit of cyan into this water to make it feel a little bit better. And I'm talking a small amount, okay? You can see how small this curve is that I've put on it with blue. I'll do the same with red. Take just a little bit of red out. There you go. Okay, so now we have a little bit bluer feeling ocean than gray since we darkened down what was essentially close to white. Now I'm going to take that black brush again, and I'm going to now go to 5% flow up here, okay? And I'm just gonna start to brush it away from this foreground. I wanna keep some sense of mist. You know, you see this mist in the foreground. I just wanna brush this back away until it's feeling more natural. Yeah, there you go. That's all we need. Just a little bit of horizon, just to sharpen it up, just to crisp it up. We can look back here and see we have a very nice, we have a little bit of an artifact here from where I cut that mask down. I don't know if you can see it. I'm gonna zoom in a little further. It's right here. There, so it's always good to check your edges where you cut with polygonal lasso. So I'm just gonna brush black there. Clean that up gently. There we go. Nice and clean, nice and crisp. Just going ahead. If anything is going to be a problem, it's going to be along the ridge line here on the skyline, the cliff. So bluff is looking good. I think that's fine. Okay, that's essentially it. I believe I knocked down the rest of campus just a little bit back here. So I'm just gonna brush in a little bit of tone. We're using a quick mask again. Q is the hotkey. I'm brushing in black. I'm hitting Q to get out of that and give myself a selection. Depending on how your Photoshop is set up, there's a preference somewhere where when you're masking, it will either, when you're in quick mask, the red that you've drawn will either be the selection or the part that's not being selected, so the inverse will be selected. So you'll either need to select inverse or modify that selection. I have mine set so that I'm, you know, whatever I brush is then the selection. So, all right, I'm gonna take a curve on that as well and just knock it down just a little bit. I don't wanna, I can see that the colors are getting a little bit saturated down here, so I'm just gonna change my layer attribute from normal to luminosity on that so that I'm not affecting the saturations of the colors. Again, I just want to give the heroes, these 6 buildings in the foreground, or 5, they're sort of connected here, all the attention. I may go in with a really small amount of opacity here and knock down this foreground too. Feeling good about that. There's only one thing that bothers me yet. Well, maybe 2. This van I don't love. This line here, you always want to pay very close attention to the edges of your frame. I'm trying to make this so you can see it all. Everything is very quiet around the edges of my frame, even this corner, the way this HVAC works on the roof, except for this line here. This line is, you know, so close to being parallel with the bottom of the image that my eye just sort of gets caught there and then gets ejected from the side of the image. So I'm going to just go ahead and make myself, I already did, make myself a transparent layer down here underneath my curves layers. And I'm just gonna use the clone stamp in this case. I think it's probably gonna be the best way for us to continue this architecture down here to the south. And we'll just get creative here and make some new vegetation with the clone stamp. We'll respect our shadows and our highlights where they land. And soon we'll have no tangent, is what we call that, a tangent, where these two things are meeting each other and riding together, right? The edge of the frame and the edge of that building. Cleaner, better, my eye isn't escaping. Very good. I don't know about the van. We could take it or leave it. We got a shadow to deal with. I'm gonna leave it for now just because I want to get through all 5 of these images. And I don't want to waste all your time. You know how to take out a little van on some concrete. So there you go. Here's what we did. Again, I'll try to make it so you can see the whole image. It's most of it there for you. So before, after, before, after. We focused the viewer's attention just a little bit on the buildings. We gave ourselves a lovely horizon for all the students who get to watch it and go see what the surf is like down at the beach. One down, easy peasy. I'm not worried, you know, if this was about one single building, I would probably get involved on the roofs and clean things up like this. Again, I've sold this image, you know, close to a dozen times, and no one's ever complained about that. This is reality. So, all right, on to the next. This is a ranch in Wyoming. We had wildfire smoke on this one in a big way. I had to return to this site a couple days after I photographed it to get this drone shot, because that ridge behind us was not really in sight when I photographed it the first time. So there's always a challenge. Again, I've done very little here. I've enhanced my ridge line a little bit, this middle ridge here, and I've taken out some some ranch trucks had driven through this this grass in the foreground here. So we'll take that away, and we will go again here. First of all, I'm just going to take a look what I do often, right? I zoom out a little bit, and I just let my eyes rest on the image and see what they're going to. So for me right away, there's a couple of white things in the foreground here. This one in particular, right? I guess it's just some boulders that they cleared when they made this fence line, probably, or when they laid the sod in the yard. Easy enough to just remove those with the remove tools. Little water irrigation plate down here. Another stone in the yard. It's kind of nice in person, but it's not great in the photograph. The stones in the yard I like. The stones that are just catching sun and shadow I don't love. Okay, almost there. All right, we're gonna zoom back out, see if anything is catching our eye now, other than these big ugly tracks, which we're gonna take out in a minute. No, looking good. We propped, you know, we set furniture, we got everything all set for this image. There's the pool down here. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and remove these. So some of this is gonna be done with brushes, some of this is gonna be done with clone stamping. It's just gonna depend. Oftentimes when you have this sort of abstract but real texture, you see how the computer here, the AI, has sort of made up its own texture. It's like this repeating non-grass suggestion of grass. I don't love it. So we're not going to go with that. We may use it to take out some smaller areas, but I think the best solution right now is just going to be to use some random. You just take random pieces of grass and you know, look where the colors are going, where the tone is going, where the density is going. Follow those leads, but just use whole sections of grass. That way you're going to, I mean, it's so clumpy and random that you're never going to be able to see like where one starts and the other begins, but you're going to be able to, that's not good. You're going to be able to get past the sort of the randomization problem that you're going to have if you're just taking an entire chunk and overlaying it, right? You're going to it's going to start to look like you have a big repeating section of grass, which we don't want. You're going to have some issues where you run from one type of vegetation into the other, but that again can be solved with a little more randomization and a little more care. So we're already getting pretty close. If there's a little bit of matted down grass here and there, we don't care that much, as long as when we zoom out it looks natural. Again, if you have like, here we have a very high contrast, you know, shadow within the grass. You got to be careful for that, because if you start to repeat that a couple times, you're going to see that shape, right? Like there it is 3 times. You want to make sure that if you're going to take a piece of that, you take half of it and then take another half and put it somewhere else, that you're not, you know, actively recreating a very, very visually noticeable part of the landscape here. This is looking pretty good. This is fine to me. There's maybe a little bit of bad grass there. Here we have a little bit of softness from the edge of the drone just being weak. the lenses on those, you know, drones aren't all that, but it is what it is. There you can see what I mean, the repeater, right? We've got this shape is repeated twice, so I can either, you know, edit the original or both. Okay, that's feeling nice. We still have a couple lines coming here. I shot this image intentionally, but this is a creek that runs through the, you can see it comes down here past the house, bends and goes this way. So we want to make sure we don't, that's part of the reason the house is here. We don't want to overwrite any like geography of the landscape, right? Soften that transition a little bit. We're almost there here. So again, I photographed this in the morning for reasons that we wanted to have a lot of shape here, right? So the camera is looking to the south and west here. Yeah, so we shot this mid-morning. So the sun had come up and was, you know, I mean, it might be a little more south than west. I don't remember the exact sighting of this thing, but I wanted to make sure I had shape back here on all of these different planes of the mountain range. That's the Tetons, the, you know, kind of edge of the Tetons here. I didn't want them to just be either A, backlit from straight behind, or B, really early in the morning. They'd just be hammered and very flat. So here I have low enough light where we have, you know, nice long shadows. I wouldn't have argued with some more shadow in this foreground, but there's nothing I could do about that. There's never going to be a perfect time at this time of year to shoot this thing. So we should probably turn this off and on a little bit, see how we did. It looks like we left a little bit right here. That looks a little bit funny. But I think we're pretty much a little bit dark there. Let's try to fix that. I think we're pretty good here. This vertical line is something funny, right? Oops. Let's take a look at that as well. Yeah, that looks like a very old track. Like someone ran that over last you know, spring, and it had all summer to regrow, but it's still kind of bouncing back. So we'll try to clean that up too. Okay. So that's nice. The next thing we're gonna do is just try to enhance the depth here with a little bit more. I'm just gonna brush these shadows down a little more, but I only want the shadows back there to be brushed down. Again, we had wildfire smoke, so even the shadows are a little bit full of you know, atmosphere, which I'm not in love with. So I was running a 30% brush there, so now I'm gonna go back with a 10% brush and just sort of extend these areas so that I don't get a really even edge to them. That probably looks pretty good. We'll make a curve layer again. We're just gonna set it to luminosity right out of the gate now. Good. And we will knock that down a little, just for more depth. Yeah. Now our shadows in the foreground feel like the shadows in the background. It doesn't feel foreign. Sky's fine. I like it as texture. It feels right for the sort of atmospheric soft light that we have. I'm happy here. I do think our foreground could stand to come down a zone. You know, I think we should just take this foreground down, maybe not a stop, but a ways so that we get past that ranch meadow. That feels better to me. Now we have got this sort of pool of light. Got some aspens, got some conifers. Okay, the last thing is that I might try to give us a little bit more contrast in the lights. So I'm going to run my luminosity mask action, which you can find back in a former video here. I'll run the luminosity masks. I'm going to take my lighters or my lights. I'll try lights for starters here and just make a curve here. Give myself a little bit. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, cuts through a little bit of that haze. Subtle, but again, you're going to hear that word a lot here. Okay, this shot feels good to me. Before, after, subtle moves make a big difference when you add them all up, right? Okay, that's 2 down. Here we go. This is a good example of a drone being used to access a place you wouldn't be able to necessarily get the camera. But having it at a height that's not, it's not an aerial view, so to speak. I'm not looking down on the building, I'm looking up at it, right? So this is in Boston. It's very close to the train terminal here with all these commuter trains. We were parked here near the bridge. We sort of did a fanning drive around and flew the drone when we had an idea of what might be a good place to fly it. This is a very early morning shot. It was a September shoot, I want to say. So, not middle of summer, not late fall, just sort of middle of the year equinox shooting. So we have the building here. This is the east face of the building. So the sun is coming up south of east or pretty close to due east. And we flew the drone and kind of stuck it just over a train car where you could get a tripod if you had a trawl tripod, or if you could get up on the train, and we just let it sit there for 20 minutes until the right train came by, and we captured it in the right location. You can see I have two trains going by. They're in the right spot. I didn't need to composite. It worked out well. So here's the rough shot. All I did was take out this column and some of the kind of foreground clutter. I also, DJI drones, I think this was my Mavic 3. Yeah, Mavic 3. And I find that their color, even when you kind of get updated firmware and you don't have this sort of pink to green, this magenta green shift happening, there's still some magenta problems and green problems on those sensors, like, a lot of the time. So this image came out just a little bit green in parts of it. So I cleaned that up with a little bit of probably red and magenta, or maybe just magenta. So we'll turn that off and we'll go again here. In this case, I don't usually do this, but usually I do my retouching and then my color will work. But I want to just do a quick curves layer on this thing. I'm just going to knock a little bit of green out of it. Is that it? Is that all we need? It's pretty good, right? Yeah, I don't think we need to add any red to that. Nothing looks too cyan to me. If anything, this is looking nice and warm. Right? It's got the sunrise light on it. Yeah, I think we're fine with this. Okay, so here is the singular problem in this image, right? Is this train yard light here in the foreground? Not a big problem, but it's enough to be annoying. So there's a few different ways we can handle that. We can use the clone stamp. We can use the patch tool, maybe, probably not. We can use actually copying pieces of the image. This was something someone pointed out to me on the exterior image I did of the BMO Center, the one in Canada that I did, is that when I was replacing a panel, rather than reproducing the panel, I could have cut a piece, an existing panel, and distorted it to fit. It's something I do a lot. I was looking for a way to talk about adding noise in that situation to an area that you've brushed, so I wanted to do it that way. But here, why don't we experiment this biggest section? I think what we'll do is we'll just take a copy of the section next to it, copy it over, and then we will distort it so it fits, and we will also modify it slightly so it's not a repeated thing. So I'm gonna duplicate a piece of a selection, which is Command J once you've made a selection, right? So now I have another one. So I can just drop that on here. It's gonna be smaller and probably slightly out of, it's a parallax problem, right? So I can't copy this piece over. It's going to get bigger and bigger as I go this way, smaller and smaller as I go this way, right? So we'll line up one corner of it, and then we will select, modify, distort, edit, transform, edit, transform, distort. Distort tends to work better when you're not on an elevation. Skew sometimes works better when you're on 1 point perspective. Here you go. So we're just taking the corners and matching the corners up with the the architecture. Okay, so once it's close, I'm going to actually zoom in and make sure I do a very good job here, because we don't want to be a pixel off if we can help it. Looking very nice there. A little bit low there. This is compressing here. I might need to drop this. Yeah, that's lined up very well now. Looks like I had that right. Okay, looking good. Let's turn it off and on. Yeah, we've got kind of a doubling happening here. Maybe we want to do this again and just actually line those up on each other like that. Let's do that. Then we'll have a better corner. So again, edit, transform, distort. So close. Just 1 pixel up there. Okay, we'll zoom out on that. Essentially perfect, right? I do want to randomize it. You know, we have this same exact window twice here, so I'm just going to take this window and remove the brighter edge of this room from it. I'll extend this line here into it, right? And then I'll do the same thing next door here. I'll just take information from another window, make maybe the one below it, and copy it up. That way I'll fix the problem over there on the left side here in just 1 second. Just taking it from a not quite registered window. Okay, so there, now we don't have this, you know, we have this sort of structural wall here or something, and now it doesn't repeat itself into that section. So, you know, that's a really good way in architecture. You oftentimes have repeating forms, and even if they're not the same exact size, they're the same exact gesture, so you can copy them and you know, use them to your advantage. I'm just going to compress these two pieces on top of each other, just so I have one retouch layer here rather than having multiple pieces, since I don't think I'm going to have to re-distort that. If I wanted to keep that on its own frame, that would be fine for purposes of like, oh, I might need to go back and edit it separately with distortion. With distortion such as you know, skewing or distorting like we just did. I think that the remove tool is going to be doing a pretty nice job for us here on this vertical column, because fortunately it falls directly through a section of the windows with no buttons or mulligans, so we're not rebuilding this with AI, which is nice because it can do a nice job on this sort of random glass. I'm probably gonna have to rebuild this piece of the train myself. Here it's gonna get a little trickier. We'll take the fence post that has the crossing train line here, and we will then we'll re-register it. I don't like that spot on the right because a bunch of different train rails are coming together there. So it's okay to do something where it's mostly good, but part of it is a mistake, and then go back from the other direction and reduce your problem that you created for yourself. Some of these have the barbed wire piece on them, some don't. I'm not going to worry about recreating one there, but I do want it to touch the top there. Okay, so that's feeling nice. We're going to just go ahead and fix this, you know, this window. Interesting. Looks like the window actually stops right there. Can we verify that? Oh yeah, there's a shorty window. Cool. All right, well, looks like we can actually just erase part of this. I'm just going to use the erase tool, which I rarely ever use. We're just going to take a little bit of this out until we see the edge of that again. Fine. And then we will go ahead and extend this through, and then we'll just grab some purple. What's the story about that? I don't need this little black dot thing. That's fine. So I have enough purple on this side that I can probably just extend it here. Just got to be careful on the bottom here with the yellow stripe that we have. Keep it clean. Feeling good? Yes? Are you guys happy? I'm happy. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Okay, so that's been removed. There's a shadow of a billboard that was up on the highway on the building. We could spend all day and remove this. Oh, it doesn't really bother me. Kind of bothers me. I think we're gonna remove it. Yeah, let's remove it. We already have a good solution for this, right? It covers two panels before the building. The building is a little bit creased like this, so we're gonna take 2 clean panels right here. This might be a slippery slope, guys, but we're gonna do it. Okay, so I've got a selection, Command J or Control J if you're on PC from the background layer. You gotta make sure you're not on the retouch layer or curves layer when you duplicate your layer. I think to do that with Control Select or Layer Duplicate Selection. I can't even remember. It's funny, you know. You learn the hotkey and then you forget forever. Anyways, not too big of a concern. Okay, so we've got layer 2. We're gonna pull this over here. We're gonna put it on top of our retouch layer because we wanna have it override the retouching we did. I'm gonna just use, if you're on the move tool, which is V, right? You can use the arrow keys to nudge things, the verb, nudging. Okay, so we're gonna, so I'm registering this bottom left corner. We're gonna go to Edit, Transform, which is behind my face, I'm sorry, and then down to Distort. And we're gonna distort it. I'm gonna pull this top left to the corner, bottom right to the edge, and then top left up. Pretty good. Pretty good, not bad. Okay. Yeah. We'll deal with these in a second. We're gonna go back and do the same thing. Again, I'm just gonna leave these layers. We're gonna keep duplicating selections. Layer via copy. There you go. So if you right click on the selection and you hit layer via copy, it's going to do the same thing as Command J, which is it's going to give you a copy of the layer. Okay. Now I'm happy. I couldn't remember how to do it. But now we have. Okay, so it's okay if this goes past this corner. This looks like it's maybe a shorter, you know, I don't think we need to make this into a shorty. I mean, I guess we can. There's no real reason not to. Keep all our relationships the same. Yep, okay. And then we do want to go just a tiny bit past it so we don't have a weird shadow line there. Okay, feeling good. Okay, good. So we want that on top of retouch, but under layer 2. I'm gonna merge those together. Just gonna call this shadow for now, so I don't lose track of it. We can just, this should be easy enough to just clone, you know, a window here or there. This shadow barely falls on this layer here of glass, so that's probably enough to cover the top of it. I might go in with like 10% opacity or flow rather, and just kind of lighten up this window. I'm gonna make sure that bottom line of the windows is respected. That way we have a nicer fade from bright to dark there. Okay. Bottom. I don't know. I told you it was a slippery slope, guys. Why'd you make me do it? Should we start with how many windows? 1, 2, 3, 4.5. Take 5 if we can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay, fair. Not high enough. Okay, duplicate off of the background layer, either Command J, Control J, right click, layer via copy, not layer via cut. We don't want to cut it out. Again, we're going to throw this one layer higher to be above the retouch layer that we created earlier. We're probably, you know, now we have an issue with the the gradient that we have going here, but this is probably still going to be a better way to maintain a smooth looking gradient by just creating a whole copied section than by trying to do each window individually. Pretty close, a little bit off there, feels better. Okay, now we will just, again, at maybe 10% flow. Actually, is this a time? I'm going to use opacity in this case. So I'm going to start at 100% flow and drop it to 10% opacity. Yes. Okay. So I'm doing that because I want to be able to brush in a certain amount of tone evenly. I don't want to have to brush back and forth where I'm going to get a heavier concentration of tone in the middle of where I'm brushing to get to, from side to side. So I'm going to just do one window here over and just brush in 10%, release the left click and brush in another 10%, and then on this half of the window, a third and fourth on the corner, 10%. It's getting closer. You can just do this by feel, right? It's looking pretty good. I don't know that we even need to do another window, right? Here, I'm just gonna cut that off on the side here. Yeah, so, you know, ignoring where that shadow is, we're fine. We don't have any problem. Okay, we're almost there. We've got one or two more panels to go. So we can cut a piece of this, and then I can see there's a little bit of overlapping shadow on that. So I'm just on my background layer. Don't tell anyone. I'm just gonna brush the shadow. Oop, gotta return to a state of 10%, 100% opacity and 10% flow. I'm just gonna take that little corner of shadow out since I'm duplicating this layer and I don't want to deal with that shadow. Looks like I trimmed off just a little bit off, a little more than I wanted to chew with a little bit of the black lines at the edge of that filter array or whatever that is. All right, so edit, transform, distort. Hope you guys have been liking these. I've been enjoying making them, and I'm gonna get busy soon, and I'm gonna have to stop doing this probably. But until that happens, I'm your boy. Keep them coming. Okay, so that's fine. Again, we have a little bit of a shadow issue on the other side. Maybe I'll select that layer and then select inverse. That way we can just clone stamp these shadows to death here. A little bit of funny business is happening. We still have to deal with that shadow. Something's up here. So I'm gonna just kind of cut myself in a line, make a selection on one side, clone stamp over tone that I know is good. Little bit off on my registry there. There you go. And then I select inverse and do the same. Just clone stamp over some tone. Once I'm registered, we'll re-register as the lines go down and I start to have parallax problems. Something's up here with the top of this train. Close, it's close. You know, we want to read that kink. There's just something weird here now, so we just gotta soften it. Also, I'm gonna cut this train top and just fix this. We have something weird going on here, and I don't like it. The top of this train, because we copied that image down and expanded it, it made some problems right there. Might just take a piece of tone here and just turn it into that color. Okay, that's better. All right, so this is the transition we need to work on. I almost wonder if this layer here just needs to be darkened down just ever so slightly, right? Put it above the shadow layer, whoops, and just knock the tone down a sliver. Hit luminosity on it to make sure it's not messing with color because I could see that color was going to saturate pretty quickly. Okay, then we just need to fix this. We're going to do the same thing we just did. We'll cut in a piece that's just slightly bigger than the panel. That's way too big. Yeah. And just expand this panel and then reverse the other panel so that we don't have such a weird line thing that's happening. And then I gotta merge all these layers down into each other so that I'm starting to get out of order with what's retouching on top of what. Okay. What have I done, you guys? Why is this so hard? All right. Try to soften this up. Softer, softer. I'm just adding a little bit of, I'm just kind of meshing them together a little bit. It's so funny. It's just darker, isn't it? How bright do we have to go to? Oh, yeah, okay. Okay. So last thing we got to do is knock out this little boy here. This seems small enough that I can just clone stamp over a couple of windows. Just got to make sure we re-register them each time that we change to a new window. Overshot that bottom just a slight amount. I'm gonna give myself a guide here just to make sure I'm not doing dirty things to the bottom of the window. Okay. And the shadow should be gone now, yeah? Pretty nice. Okay, feeling better. I don't know what the deal is with this little edge here. I'll do everybody a favor and clean that up. Oh, I guess there's just no, it's just the shadow line from the edge of the yeah, this, you know, it doesn't have a panel that meets it, so there has to be a little shadow there. It's better without it. Oops, I keep grouping these instead of flattening them. There we go. Okay, very good. 2 cones to take out, and then we can move on with our lives, hey? We went down the rabbit hole on this one, but who can blame us? That was fun. Okay, that one, this one. Might have to do a little rebuilding on this edge. Hey, it did a good job. Hey, when it works, right? Not gonna fight it. Anything to make our lives a little bit easier, we'll take. Garbage on the train tracks, who would have thought? We don't have to do all this. Okay, so how do we feel about our darks? I'm feeling as though they are a little bit too dark and not contrasty enough. We'll take a luminosity mask action once again. This time we'll take the darks and we're going to open and contrast them on top of all of our other layers. Ooh, feeling better, feeling better. But we still want to maintain shadows. We don't want to be looking fake. Look it. It's like subtlety is our middle name. Okay, good job everybody. We did it. 3 down, 2 to go. I'll give you a quick or a better before and after here because I know you guys liked that and you want a little more time with it. I pinned this down here. Pin, okay. But it's getting in the way just a little bit. Okay, so before, after, before, after. I'll give you a tighter look at this area. Before, after, before, after. Okay, very nice. This was a fun shoot. I like this one. I like the project. I like the location. I like the team. Tom Lee Park, Memphis, 106 degrees or something. Sweated so much, got the worst headache of my life. One of the most fun shoots of the year. Super fun. Early morning, sun's up in the east. and it's just about to come out over the top of the skyline. We've got this soft light. I wanted to show the context of the river. So we had the Mississippi River here with the barges, the beautiful bridge, the Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World Pyramid, and our building here. The park wasn't open yet. We had nobody to be in the pictures, and we were just sort of doing this as a exercise to get images for the architect, for the landscape architect, for the city. And then we came back when the park was open, and again, one of the most fun shoots of the year. We had just a packed pavilion. People were playing basketball. There was a DJ. It was an incredibly lively spot. So here's the before and afters. I took some things out. I cleaned up some, it's a construction site, literally. They had just laid the sod. It was, I needed some love. We might do a little bit more. We might clean up that sidewalk too. So I'll turn that layer off and we'll start over. I'll make a retouch layer for you, and then I will make a curves layer. And again, we're just gonna clean up the dang color cast issues. I'm gonna add a tiny bit of red. I'm gonna take out some green. I didn't need to add the red. I'm gonna take that out. I'm gonna add a little bit of blue. It should feel like warm morning light. It should not feel like green pea soup. Better? Better. All right. Let's do some retouching. Oops, I just made a new retouch layer when I had already made one. Let's start here with this palette of sand. Look, this guy's, they were laying down the rubberized surface on the playing court. And yeah, I mean, look at this. We got caution tape up. We got all the things. Like, it's like we should have a bingo card for architectural photography shoots with caution tape, with sprinklers coming on and ruining your shot, with some sort of room with blinds that we can't get down in it. There should be a scissor lift or a boom lift parked right in front of your shot. There should be a FedEx truck that pulls up right at the perfect moment of light for you to ruin the shot. What else? What happens on every shoot, guys? Somebody walking by and asking, what channel is this going to be on? Is this going to be on the news? To your still photography. It's all fun. It's all good. Or when you're in the airport at the baggage claim with all your equipment. What band are you in? It's a good one too. Tom Harris and the Blinky Inkies. It's mine. Okay. So some combination, again, as we did on the image from Wyoming, of, healing brush, or I guess it's the remove tool, the clone stamp. This just takes time. This takes practice. It's not science. It's art. You just kind of gotta get a feel for it. It's feeling good. It's feeling great. It's a lot of progress. A little bit of a weird strip of sod laid down here. It's a different color. We'll get in at that one and try to even it out a little bit. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be, all we want to do is get past it so that we can see the building and not be stuck in the stuck in the grass in the foreground, being like, oh god, it looks like this park is not a place I'd want to hang out, right? It's got a bunch of garbage mud in the foreground and bare spots where dogs peed and stuff like that. I don't know why you guys watch these things. You must be very bored. Just kidding. I just usually have a little more to talk about. This episode is pretty heavy on the removals of various foreground obstructions. Feeling better? What is this line? Some piece of rope in the grass or something? Oh, now the remove tool thinks it's a good thing. It's making more of it for me. It's good. I think that's us with the drone. Probably shouldn't have left us in the shot, but it's an Easter egg for you. It's like 6 in the morning and it's probably already 97 degrees Fahrenheit. We were so miserably hot. But man, I tell you, the architect, they designed this shade structure. Look at this. There's posts for a tree that's not even there. Oh, I guess, is that the tree? That seems suspicious. Let's go deal with that caution tape. That seems like a good use of our time. We're gonna take out the little caution signs, and then we'll take out the tapes. It's good to do when you're working with this brush. I've found doing precise and you know, segment it. Don't try to highlight it all and assume it's going to take it all out in one piece. If you're just showing it very precisely what we need to get rid of, it's going to do a much better job than if you give it just a big pool of pixels and say, figure it out, bud. Sorry about that. Looks like it just kind of messed with this edge line a little bit. I'm straightening it back out. Okay, let's cut ourselves a path here, and we will, I gotta come up with a name for it. Bumper bowling. Okay, just gonna remove the sprinkler overspray here from the morning's watering, which it definitely needed. So when you get the preview on the clone stamp, you'll notice it's greener than the surrounding area because it's not factoring in this in the layer above it, right? It's drawing from the current and below. Okay, so that's again why we order our layers correctly, right? So anything we do to this layer doesn't factor in the magenta curves layer that we put on top of it, but the magenta curves layer then affects it, so it automatically, everything is ordered correctly, and it automatically is fixing the problems rather than us creating new ones. Why layer order is important. It's better. We're going to save this part for a little bit later. We'll do the high impact stuff first, and then we'll punish ourselves with the... When you are using this tool, additionally, if you just close a loop, it's going to go ahead and fill it for you, which is sometimes helpful, sometimes not. Oops, I should have given myself a bigger canvas to work from there. No, I guess it wasn't a big deal. I did a good job of recognizing the edge. Okay, so do we want to cut barriers, or can we freehand this? YOLO? YOLO. Let me, if you are actually here and listening, let me know what other types of images you want to see retouched. My plan next is to do a series of architectural details, or well, maybe a detail video and then a detail about vignettes. I think there's sometimes confusion about what's what and what is a vignette versus a detail, and vice versa. So I think it might be helpful to walk through how I compose and produce a few of each in 2 separate videos. They both have their place in a set of images. I don't tend to rely heavily on details, particularly because I'm usually starved for time, and the story of the building usually is told best through images of the building rather than abstract details about texture. However, some of the very favorite shots that I make during a year are details, and it is very nice to be able to tell a richer version of the story using that as texture and flavor for the where are you gonna YOLO it again here? You know, with how the building really feels. You feel those details when you're there. You feel the textures of the wood, you feel the grain, you feel the you know, how much the steel is rusted, etc. And it is very nice to be able to have the luxury of enough time to really complete the story. But again, my goal is to get the architects what they need to tell the story to a magazine. I will tell you that there are definitely exceptions. You know, if I'm doing a interior design focused story, I will spend a lot of time on vignettes and details, and less time on overalls, because the story is usually about how the room feels to be in, and less how it feels to walk, you know, into a space, and how you're hit initially by the you know, you can do that. You can tell the story of the space in 1 or 2 images, and then, you know, in another 8 that are more vignette-y, tighter, you can really tell the rest of the story then, and it feels complete, rather than telling it with 6 overalls and 1 detail, right? Okay, feeling better about all of this. I think we're very close on this one. I'm not gonna go in and remove every little thing for you guys. This is gestural. I'm trying to show you guys kind of what's important and where we go with you know, why we're doing aerial photography. So the image is now feeling a little bit flat to me. I think it could use, the highlights are definitely weak, and the shadows could be, you know, there could be more contrast in the shadows. I say it all the time. Luminosity masks, run it, channels. Should we start with the lighters? Slightly higher than the mids. I want to make sure that I have some real highlights. Like, just that makes the image feel like twice as good to me. Just gives us a little bit of air to breathe, right? It's not just so smoky. It was, again, I think we had wildfire smoke in Tennessee. This was quite a summer. We'll take our darks and we'll add some contrast to them. Feeling better? Do you see how it just cuts through that fog a little bit? So here's the 2 together, right? Just gets us a little more open. So I'm feeling like we took a little tiny bit of the morning magic out of it. I'm gonna go back to our curves layer, and I'm gonna take a little bit of blue out of the shot. I think we added a little too much blue. I want it to feel warm. I want it to feel like we have this morning light pouring across this, you know, this barge. I want it to feel like it, you know, there's 3 of them, you know, they're making their way, you know, up towards Minneapolis or down towards, you know, Louisiana. And, you know, the sun has risen. They've been cruising all night. Let's get it going. I might now mess with a little bit. I'm going to just draw a tiny bit of a mask in, not even 50%, and darken up the foreground. And then I'm just going to kind of throw in a little bit of a spray of light from the right to the left, right? And I might just open that up, and I might just warm it up again very slightly. Just a tiny bit of red and a tiny bit of blue out of it. So a little bit of yellow added. It's getting me in there. See, I like to work oftentimes with a small image so that I can take in the adjustments I'm making at a more global scale. So let me take all of our curves layers now and just show you how much of a difference they make, right? I mean, I probably should take the color editor layer out and just show you the contrast things we've done with curves. You know, it's the vision that makes the tool good, right? Like, you can see where it's improved our image here on the whole. Done with that one. Let's head to the north suburbs of Chicago, to this beauty here. Beautiful house. Again, I photographed it from a helicopter years ago. We came back and did some more images when the landscape was much more complete, much more grown in. 10 years later, actually, after the initial shoot that I did from the helicopter. And then now we've done these. There was several images we did, you know, looking back towards Chicago and things. I'm just going to show you this one because we haven't really looked at a plan view yet with the drone. This is something that architects just tend to love because, you know, they oftentimes design in this way and it's fun for them to see it in reality. I mean, they don't just design in this way, but they spend a lot of time thinking about these relationships. And it's nice for them to be able to see, you know, how they actually worked out in reality. So I cleaned up green roof stuff, right? Here's my retouching layer. We're going to go back in and do the same here. So it'll be quick. We also have an image that's a little bit too green. This is us. I wasn't actually originally planning to do this shot, so I didn't move our camera equipment out far enough. So we're actually in the shot. There's the drone case. There's me probably, yeah, and the architect, or maybe it's my assistant, standing in the grass there. Homeowner and stuff swimming in the pool, super fun. I love that, that's in the shot. We're gonna clean up the hose here. There's a couple of pool floaties there that we might just desaturate or color layer so that they match the surrounding green. This gradient is gonna mess with my day, I think. I guess I can just let it be a little brighter and I can let that green bleed over. Yeah, okay, we're fine with that. Yeah, we're fine with that. Let's just take it out. It's so easy now, right? Yeah, why not? I was gonna say we could just take a color layer and make that green so it blended in really well with this darker grass here. Man, what a landscape, huh? Just beautiful, just beautiful. This is a this is the area that has like the electrical transformers and some water connections and things for the city to access, gas meter, stuff like that. We can just get rid of this stuff. I'm not gonna mess with the electrical box, it's fine, it blends in. Okay, let's start to work on the roof here. This is good. Oh, I know another thing you guys are looking for is understanding lighting. When I use it, how I use it, what it looks like to retouch an image with that's more heavily lit on an interior. So I'm gonna work on that too. I'm kind of waiting until I get a chance to take some photographs in the field of what my lighting equipment looks like, so I can sort of splice that into the video rather than me just showing you, you know, what it looks like with the light off versus the light on, which is probably all I'm going to have in the raw captures. So once I get a couple of good chances to do that, I'll make a video that's more heavily about why I light. The thing about that is, like, learning how to retouch on YouTube, super valuable. Learning how to light, well, you know, it's not gonna hurt to learn anything you can on YouTube. Being in the field with somebody who's lighting, there's so many variables and so many nuances to all these things that there's really there's no excuse for being there. There's no substitute for being there in the field in person, because you're gonna, you know, even if you're a very spatial thinker and you can understand three-dimensional relationships without being in them, it's still like there's just so many nuances that it helps to be there to say, like, why did we light from this angle versus that angle? Why is the light that high? Why is it a bounce instead of a softbox, instead of a grid, instead of an umbrella? You know, there's so many ways to solve the same problem, and like why you settle on the one that you've solved it with. If you're looking to light, if you can find a way to get out in the field with somebody who's doing it, it's going to be it's going to serve you very well, versus trying to just, you know, digitally figure it all out, you know, on a computer and then go do it in reality. Because right away you're going to start to see problems like, oh, I have a glare angle here, and how do I solve this problem? Or, you know, all these different problems that are solvable, and I'm sure you can figure them out. There's, again, like I said, there's no wrong way. Well, there is, but, you know, if you can't tell in camera, there's no wrong way. But, you know, there's the best practices that it's really helpful to learn and just getting the feel for somebody who's been doing it for years and years is gonna serve you really well. Continuing to just carve in buffers for myself to then, you know, cut in. I'm trying to maintain the shadow lines and things like that. Just paying attention to every little artifact about the image, because I don't want there to be evidence of what we've done. If I could have made it up on this roof to clean it, I might have, you know. Lots of work to be done in the field. Feeling good, feeling great. Let's take a look at our color. Our color is closer on this one, but maybe a little green again. A trend with the drone. I could have done a better job in Capture One in the raw handling. You know, making sure I had it really perfectly dialed in, but there's probably, yeah, see the lake has gone now a little bit reddish, which I don't love. I'm gonna slide it over here so you can see. It's Lake Michigan. It should feel a little greenish blue. I'm gonna just take a black brush and brush a little bit of our mask away now, right? So you can see I'm taking it little by little out of the red that I've added in the magenta, and letting the lake be its own color temperature, so to speak. Okay, we could take the cars out here. We're not going to mess with that right now. It's not going to be helpful for you to spend your time watching that. So I think that this video has somehow now gone on for 1 hour and 10 minutes when I expected it was going to go on for about 40. So there you go. We spent a lot of time on that image before. Our color and our contrast looks good here. I'm intentionally making a choice to leave my darks dark here because I want to read this sort of boomerang, these 2 bars of the house very strongly. I want to let my darks be dark here. I don't want to just make everything mid-tones. I don't see any reason to add contrast to any part of the image here. The whites are white enough. The darks are dark enough. The mids are beautiful. The mids, you know, we could maybe lighten up the mids, add a tiny bit of contrast to the mids. Does it help? Does it hurt? It's up to you. I'd look at it at least, but okay. Well, that's it for aerial photography. Plan views, context views. That shot looks red now, but now when I go back to this one, it's gonna look green and yellow. Yeah, there you go. Balance the tires, guys. It's the Mississippi. I guess it should be a little brown, but it's probably a little bit red. This feels good. I'm glad we took out that shadow. That looks nice. Feels good. I want to go there, that's for sure. Success. And yeah, can smell the sea air, huh? All right, everyone. Thank you for your time. I appreciate all the comments, all the messages you sent me. I do appreciate it. I feel like we're creating a, you know, community of people who are trying to learn, and that's the goal here. I'm trying to make something in 2025 accessible and approachable, and you know, there's things that I wish I had access to in 2008 when I was trying to figure this stuff out for the first time, but I didn't, because none of this existed. So I was lucky though, and I fell in with a bunch of mentors who took care of me, and I took care of them, and the career was started. So thank you for your time. Let me know what you want to see next. See you next time, pals. See you next time.